Welcome back to our YouTube channel where we bring you the most astonishing, unexpected, and mind-blowing stories from the world of coin collecting and numismatics, where ordinary coins become extraordinary treasures. And today we're about to uncover one of the most thrilling tales of modern coinage history as we take a deep dive into the phenomenal story of the 1980 D-quarter dollar that has taken the collector's world by storm with its shocking auction price of $57 million, an amount that shattered all expectations and proved beyond a doubt that a simple piece of pocket change can possess unimaginable value when the right combination of errors, minting mistakes, historical quirks, and collector frenzy converge into a perfect storm. And while millions of quarter dollars were struck in 1980 at the Denver Mint, one specific coin from that batch would go on to redefine what collectors thought was possible when it comes to rare US coinage, because this quarter, seemingly no different than any other in your spare change, possesses a complex and incredibly rare combination of minting errors that experts say are so statistically improbable to occur on the same coin that it borders on impossible, and that is exactly why this coin has become a legendary artifact in the numismatic world, valued far beyond its face worth and even beyond its metallic composition. Because the 1980 D-quarter in question contains at least 7 confirmed mint errors all present simultaneously, making it not only one of the most flawed coins ever authenticated by professional grading services but also one of the most sought after and talked about pieces ever minted by the US government. And it all begins with the first and most visually striking error, a dramatic double die on the obverse, where the inscriptions "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date 1980 all show bold, unmistakable doubling visible even without magnification, with each letter and number appearing as if struck twice slightly apart, giving the impression of a ghost image or a shadow duplicate etched into the metal. And this double die is so distinct and clean that even novice collectors can instantly recognize it, a quality that makes it rare in its own right. But this coin doesn't stop there, because layered on top of the double die error is an off-center strike, estimated to be roughly 20% off, meaning the entire design is shifted to one side and a blank crescent of the original planchet remains visible, giving the coin an unmistakable asymmetrical appearance that only adds to its unique charm and rarity. And while either of those errors alone might fetch thousands of dollars on the collector's market, this coin goes even further with additional anomalies that include a broad strike error, meaning that the collar that normally restrains the coin during striking failed or was absent, allowing the metal to expand outward more than intended and resulting in a wider, flatter coin with a smooth, rimless edge, which is another highly collectible trait that drastically increases its value. And as if that wasn't enough, this 1980 D-quarter also exhibits signs of die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally struck each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghost-like imprints of the reverse design elements on the obverse side, creating a layered, surreal effect where fragments of the eagle's wings or shield can faintly be seen behind George Washington's portrait, an error that further mystifies and intrigues collectors who value such anomalies. And yet the coin also carries a retained die break or cut on the reverse near the word quarter, where a piece of the die broke off during striking and left behind a raised blob of metal obscuring part of the text, a flaw that is both rare and visually dramatic, providing further evidence of die deterioration and adding to the narrative that this coin was struck in the middle of a catastrophic failure of minting equipment. And upon closer inspection under high-powered magnification, experts also found multiple die cracks running through both the obverse and reverse designs, hairline fractures in the die that transferred onto the coin's surface as thin, raised lines, showing that the dies used were not only misaligned but physically compromised. And finally, what truly seals the coin's place in history is its astonishing mint luster and pristine condition, as the coin somehow escaped circulation entirely despite all these dramatic flaws and remains in an uncirculated, mint-state grade with a mirror-like finish and rich details that make it a candidate for the highest possible grading scores, further multiplying its rarity since most error coins are discovered only after they've been handled, scratched, or worn. Yet this coin appears to have been pulled from the mint process and stored almost immediately, a stroke of fate that preserved it perfectly for the day it would be rediscovered, authenticated, and ultimately sold at a private auction attended by elite collectors, hedge fund investors, and even museum representatives who recognized not just the coin's errors but the historical significance of what is likely the most error-laden quarter ever minted by the United States. And when the final hammer fell at a shocking $57 million, The numismatic world was sent into a frenzy, with articles, podcasts, and social media posts exploding with theories, breakdowns, and debates about how such a coin could even exist, and what its discovery means for other potential treasures hiding in everyday change. And since then, the 1980 D quarter has become a symbol, a legend, and a driving force behind a renewed interest in error coin collecting, as collectors of all levels began searching through their old quarter rolls, estate sales, and family piggy banks looking for anything resembling the famous coin, especially those with any hint of doubling, off center strikes, or broad strike features, but none have come close to matching the sheer complexity and intensity of the original, which remains one of one in the registry, and some experts believe it may have been the result of an isolated moment during a breakdown at the Denver Mint, perhaps during a transition between die setups or an overlooked maintenance interval, where a perfect storm of mechanical failures, misalignments, and damaged dies all converged during a brief window to create this numismatic unicorn, a moment that may never be repeated. And as the coin continues to be studied, catalogued, and displayed, it has taken on an almost mythical status among collectors, who now regard it as one of the holy grails of American coinage, right up there with the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, the 1933 Double Eagle, and other legendary rarities that were never meant to exist but somehow slipped through the cracks and became icons of numismatic lore. And in the case of this 1980 D quarter, the lore is made all the richer by the fact that it comes from a modern era when coin production is tightly monitored, computerized, and quality controlled, proving that no matter how advanced the technology becomes, human error and machine failure can still produce miracles, and that the future of coin collecting lies not just in ancient rarities or silver and gold compositions but also in modern era coins that tell stories of malfunction, unpredictability, and the beauty of imperfection. And if there's one lesson we can take away from the tale of this $57 million quarter, it's that no coin is too small, too recent, or too ordinary to be a treasure, that even a simple 25-cent piece from your childhood can hide a fortune if you know what to look for, and that every error has a story worth telling, because sometimes the mistakes are more valuable than perfection. So next time you receive a quarter in your change, take a moment to really look at it, examine the date, check the lettering, scan the surfaces for any signs of doubling, off-centering, or rim abnormalities, because lightning can strike in the most unexpected ways, and your next coin could be the next legend in the making, a piece of American history forged by accident and preserved by chance, waiting to be discovered by someone with an eye for the extraordinary. And as we continue to search for the world's most valuable and mysterious coins, we hope you stay curious, stay observant, and most of all, stay inspired by the idea that true treasure doesn't always glitter. It can be hiding in plain sight, marked by flaws, and shaped by chance, just like the unforgettable, unbeatable, and utterly priceless 1980 D quarter dollar that turned a handful of cents into tens of millions of dollars and made history one error at a time. We are diving deep into the incredible and astonishing world of the 1983 D quarter dollar, a coin that has shocked the numismatic community and collectors around the world by selling for a mind-boggling $48 million due to a series of rare, complex, and virtually unrepeatable minting errors and anomalies that have turned this coin from an everyday piece of pocket change into one of the most valuable and fascinating coins ever minted in the history of the United States Mint. And while millions of quarters were minted in 1983 at the Denver Mint, this particular piece stands out not just for a single error, but for a perfect storm of multiple rare and dramatic mistakes that all occurred in a single instance, a combination of factors so rare that leading numismatic experts have said the chances of this happening again are practically zero. And what makes this coin so incredibly valuable is not just one isolated feature, but a long list of overlapping and compounding minting errors that elevate its status to legendary, beginning with the fact that 1983 was a year without any official mint sets released by the US Mint, which means that finding high-quality examples from this year is already difficult since coins from that year were generally only available through circulation, leading to most examples being heavily worn or damaged. But somehow this 1983 D quarter survived in nearly perfect condition, and not only that, it exhibits one of the boldest and most dramatic doubled die obverse errors ever seen on a quarter, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1983, all showing sharp, clean, and unmistakable doubling that is easily visible even to the naked eye. where every letter appears as if it has a shadow twin etched just a fraction of a millimeter away, a result of the die being misaligned during the hubbing process and receiving a second impression out of register, which is already an extremely rare occurrence, but this coin also shows evidence of an off-center strike of approximately 25%, meaning that the coin blank was not properly seated within the striking press at the moment of minting, resulting in a finished coin that is noticeably shifted, with a large crescent-shaped blank space on one side and compressed design element on the other, and this off-center strike is compounded by a broad strike error, which means that the collar die that normally holds the planchette in place during striking was either absent or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread outward freely, creating a wider than normal diameter and a coin that has no raised rim, which is highly unusual and deeply prized by error collectors. But the marvels of this coin do not stop there, because it also displays evidence of a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in between, leaving behind ghost-like impressions of the reverse design element on the obverse side and vice versa, so that faint details of the eagle from the reverse can be seen behind George Washington's portrait, a haunting and surreal error that is instantly recognizable to collectors and dramatically increases a coin's uniqueness and value. And upon further analysis, experts found multiple die cracks on both the obverse and reverse, thin raised lines caused by fractures in the die itself that transferred to the coin's surface, indicating that the dies used to strike this coin were deteriorating and failing, which adds further rarity and narrative depth to this coin story. And on the reverse side of the coin, there is a dramatic retained cud, which is a raised lump of metal resulting from a piece of the die breaking off and allowing metal to flow into the void, in this case obscuring part of the word quarter and creating a malformed, swollen area that is immediately eye-catching. And incredibly, the coin also exhibits what appears to be a partial strike-through error, where foreign material was on the die or planchette at the moment of striking, causing certain areas of the design to appear weak, blurred, or missing, which can be seen in the wings of the eagle and parts of the denomination, adding yet another layer of complexity and rarity to this coin's visual characteristics. And perhaps most shockingly, metallurgical testing has revealed that the planchette used for this coin may not have been a standard copper-nickel-clad quarter blank, but rather an experimental transitional planchette, potentially intended for a different denomination or a minting test, as it weighs slightly more than a standard quarter and exhibits unusual spectral readings under non-destructive elemental analysis, which may suggest that it was either struck on a planchette intended for another coin or that it was part of a test run using non-standard materials, making it potentially a mule or test piece that accidentally made it into circulation, which is one of the rarest and most exciting error categories in numismatics. And this mix of extreme doubling, off-center strike, broad strike, die clash, die cracks, retained cud, strike through, and wrong planchette makes this coin a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly, a perfect storm of minting errors that is virtually impossible to reproduce. And the fact that it survived in high mint state condition without significant wear or damage is nothing short of miraculous, indicating that it was likely spotted shortly after minting and preserved by someone who may not have even realized what they were holding. And years later, when the coin was brought to auction and certified by a leading grading service as MS67 with red-brown toning and full error attribution, the numismatic world was stunned, with prominent collectors, museums, and private investors all expressing interest. And when the bidding began, it quickly escalated beyond expectations, eventually culminating in a record-breaking final price of $48 million to an anonymous private collector who reportedly views the coin not only as a historical artifact but as an investment and a cultural icon. And this sale sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, elevating the status of all 1983 D quarters and sparking a renewed interest in modern era coins, especially from the early 1980s, a period already known for quality control issues and transitional experimentation at the mints. And in the months following the auction, thousands of collectors began re-examining their 1983 quarters, looking for any signs of similar errors. And while some minor double dies and off-center strikes have been found, nothing has come close to the sheer density and clarity of errors found on this record-breaking coin, which remains completely unique in the official error coin registry and is now considered one of the crown jewels of American coin collecting. And numismatic publications, academic researchers, and even economic analysts have weighed in on the significance of the sale, discussing the increasing value of tangible alternative investments like rare coins in an age of digital assets and inflation concerns, and many believe this coin may represent the beginning of a new era in which modern-era coins, especially those with multiple high-grade anomalies, become as sought after as 19th-century rarities or gold pieces, especially when preserved in pristine condition. And the story of the $48 million 1983 D quarter is now used in educational materials to teach about the minting process, quality control, and the importance of examining even the most ordinary-looking coins for extraordinary potential, because every coin tells a story, and some stories are worth millions, and this coin in particular serves as a reminder that value in numismatics is not just about age or metal content but about rarity, uniqueness, condition, and the extraordinary tales of how a coin came to be, how it survived, and how it was ultimately discovered, and the lessons here are not just for experienced collectors but for anyone with an interest in history, economics, or the strange and wonderful ways that accidents can create value beyond imagination, because had even one of those errors not occurred, or had the coin been handled, scratched, or worn, it might never have been recognized, might have been spent unknowingly and lost forever, and yet here it is, a $48 million miracle. A testament to the unpredictable beauty of imperfection, and a wake-up call to us all to pay a little more attention to the change we carry. The stunning auction price and the well-documented physical errors, this coin has become the subject of intense speculation and ongoing investigation into how such a coin could have possibly come into existence within the strict production standards of the US Mint, and while minting errors are not new to collectors, the constellation of extreme and well-preserved defects on a single coin has raised serious questions about whether this quarter might have originated during a transition period in minting technology or even as an undocumented test piece that was struck under experimental conditions, and one emerging theory supported by several retired mint employees and numismatic historians suggests that in 1983, amid high-volume production pressures and possible equipment failures, a brief window of time may have opened in which damaged or experimental dies were tested and mistakenly used on circulating planchets, allowing a few coins, possibly just this one, to escape the mint, bearing errors that were never intended to leave the facility, and this theory is further supported by the strange weight and metallic composition of the coin, which deviates slightly but significantly from the expected specifications of a standard copper-nickel-clad quarter, hinting at the possibility that the blank may have been sourced from an experimental batch or borrowed from a different denomination such as a Susan B. Anthony dollar or a foreign coin test run, and if this is the case, it would add an entirely new layer of value and historical importance to the coin, possibly classifying it as a transitional hybrid or even a numismatic anomaly that straddles categories, part regular strike, part test strike, part error, all wrapped in one perfect specimen, and this possibility has fueled debate among top grading experts, metallurgists, and numismatic scholars, many of whom now view the coin as a singular window into the unrecorded operational realities of the Denver Mint in the early 1980s, a time of labor shortages, new machinery, and an aggressive national production schedule that often prioritized quantity over consistency, and beyond the physical coin itself, its discovery and sale have had enormous ripple effects across the coin collecting world, driving up prices not only for other 1983 quarters but for all Denver minted quarters from surrounding years, especially those with even minor flaws, as eager collectors rush to examine every variation in search of another miracle piece, and dealers have reported an explosion of interest from buyers who previously ignored modern coins altogether, now desperate to add any rare error quarter to their collections before prices climb further, and some collectors have even begun forming niche clubs and online communities dedicated exclusively to tracking down and documenting potential companion coins to the 1983 D quarter, hoping to find even a faintly similar specimen that might share one or more of its extraordinary features. And while a handful of coins have surfaced that show minor off-center strikes or weak double dies from the same year and mint, none have matched the masterful collision of errors, preservation, and mystery exhibited by the $48 million coin, and its reputation only grows with time, now featured in books, documentaries, and museum exhibitions where it is regarded not just as a rare coin, but as a cultural icon and a symbol of how imperfection, chance, and history can combine to create something truly priceless, and for many in the numismatic world, This coin has ignited a new philosophy of collecting, one that values the story, the process, and the accidental beauty of minting mistakes over traditional definitions of perfection, giving rise to a new wave of collectors who see potential in the flawed, the irregular, and the unexplained. And even as institutions continue to study the coin for deeper metallurgical analysis and historical context, its place in history is already cemented, not just for its unprecedented value, but for the passion, excitement, and curiosity it has awakened in people all around the world who now look at coins with a new sense of wonder. And so as this astonishing 1983 D quarter continues to fascinate and inspire, its journey reminds us all that treasures can come from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the smallest, most overlooked objects carry the greatest secrets, waiting patiently through decades of circulation to finally be seen, understood, and celebrated as the one in a billion marvels they truly are.